When this game came out, it was the new and cool thing. And now we're looking at all these like new soup games and we're like, please, this is way too loud. We're like, please, give me something different. And it's like, how did we fall so far? And the truth is, it's pretty obvious, honestly. It's just repetition, right? We had too much of this game. We didn't want this game as much as we got it. Although this was pretty cool. I gotta say, I'm a big fan of this guy. Hell yeah. But yeah, New Soup, when New Soup DS came out, it was a huge moment, right? It was hugely important as a Mario game because what the Mario game before this was Super Mario World, basically. I mean, Super Mario Advance, maybe. I don't know. You can see my face when the screen goes black. That's kind of disconcerting. Out of respect, you should not look. You should not look because I'm currently looking down at the DS, so the angle makes it look kind of weird. But yeah, like what was I saying about this game again? What was my angle here? The game is good, but people don't want too much of it. I mean, oh hi. Yeah, that's basically the angle, to be honest. I remember playing this game a lot. Not necessarily when it came out, but when I got it, which was probably after it came out by a decent margin. And you know, back then piracy was so normalized. These days it's like piracy and people are either for or against it. Most people probably my age are pretty like pro piracy. Just on the basis that we're all guilty of it, right? We all do it. And some people have more profound reasons to be pro piracy, which is that you know, I don't want to get too political on the fucking new Super Mario Brothers video. I'm just saying that piracy used to be super normalized and that like everybody did it. And now you've got to be one way or another. You've either got to be pro-piracy or anti-piracy. And if you're asking me, then I've pirated loads of fucking games. And I don't think it's that bad. So I guess that, you know... And, you know, I'm going to, and I have in the past, played pirated games on Melon Keeper Gold. Which games are those? Chibi Robo. Literally one of the best games I've played on this channel. I don't own that game. I played it on Dolphin Emulator. And the point I was trying to get to with all of this is that I never owned this game until very recently. Despite the fact that I played it as a child, I had one of those R4 cards, which was the very, very normalized piracy that I'm talking about. Everybody had one of those because it was so easy to just go to a shop like... I don't know where they were sold, to be honest. I was a kid at the time, but it was so easy to just go to a shop, pick up an R4 card, and suddenly you can play every DS game. That's a pretty good deal. Like, I would do that. You know? So you have all these parents that are buying these R4 cards, and they probably don't know the extent to which it is legal. Although, you know, I think... You get the idea pretty easily that it's a bit shady. But, you know, you get these R4 cards and they're like, great, my kid can play all these games. All I need to do is find a ROM on the internet, which was really easy to do because you could just go to websites that I'm not going to name. Oh, shit. You can just go to websites that I'm not going to name. Mainly because they could be full of viruses now. I'm not going to discourage anyone from piracy. But I don't want to accidentally link to a site that's going to give you a virus. And I feel like a lot of the websites that gave you games back then probably don't give you games anymore. Or they don't just give you games, at least. Speaking of, actually, I had a run-in with Windows Defender recently that kind of shook me up a little, because nobody wants to get a virus on their computer. And it's weird when Windows Defender screams at you after you haven't even downloaded any new software in like a couple weeks. It's like, okay, what could I possibly be doing wrong here? It was Project Plus. The Project Plus updater flagged Windows Defender, and I was like, okay, this is probably a false positive, but I don't know too much about it. I don't want to just assume. So I'll do a full scan of my computer, and in the meantime, I'll just get rid of P+. Like, I don't even play it that much because Melee's right there, so like, whatever. And so I go on the P+ Discord. It turns out, yeah, the updater gets flagged as a Trojan occasionally. It's not a big deal. But it is a weird thing to just randomly get shouted at you after months of having this fucking mod on your computer. Suddenly Windows Defender is like, actually it's a Trojan. And I'm like, hold your horses there, buddy. So that was a bit scary. But, you know, I'm fine. I don't have a virus. And, you know, we're all good on that front. But yeah, I never owned this game, and now I do. I almost put down my water next to an extension cord that is plugged in. I feel like that would have been a bad idea, so I moved it. But where am I going with this? Now I own this game. I went to a shop, I bought the game. It was like £8 or something, because it was loose, it wasn't in the box. Not that it would have been super expensive in the box. DS games are cheap as shit. But it makes you wonder, how did this console get as successful as it was when it was so easy to steal all the games? Like, that's the whole thing that Gabe Newell said, right? Like, if you want to discourage pirates, you have to give them something better than the piracy. Like, it's a service problem. And that's fair, that's true. Like, you know, I think if you have the money to buy a game, you're more likely to buy it from Steam than you are to pirate it. The only times that I really pirated games that were on Steam was when I was a kid who didn't have any money. Nowadays, if I really want a game, I'm just gonna buy the game. Although I do avoid games that are more than like a tenner, because although I am able to afford video games, I have 366 of them to play, and I cannot afford 366 £50 video games. And so I've got to be a bit wise with my money. The reason that I bought this instead of just emulating it, to be honest, or just, you know, using an R4 card, is because it's kind of cool to just own video. It's like owning media is cool. And I think that, like, having even just a small collection, like, I'm not going to Scott the Woz it. I'm not going to have every fucking video game released in the last decade. I don't need all of that. Or not even in the last decade, like, even longer than that. Like, I'm alright. But I do think it's nice to own things. Like, I buy CDs still, and I buy vinyl still. When Baby Metal released their new album, the other one, which isn't their new album anymore, it's been over a year, but it's their newest album, I bought that on CD, I bought that on vinyl, because owning media is cool, supporting artists is cool, and, you know, it's just nice to have, like, a physical trinket to show off that you like a game. I got this Super Mario 64 DS cart. I'll play that in the next video, right? And it's cool playing on the original hardware, playing the games, you know, in a kind of more official manner. Not that it really makes a big difference, but I think, like, hopefully you guys can see it when you're watching this video, that, like, me playing this on the DS with a camera pointed at the DS, instead of just recording it at my desktop, you know, on an emulator, like, hopefully that adds something to the experience. rather than takes away, because, you know, objectively the picture quality is worse, and objectively the sound is probably worse because I'm recording this on my iPhone instead of my microphone, and like, you know, the video is not going to look as good, but I feel like there is like what are the words I'm looking for now? There is a value in this feeling that I can't fully understand or explain, that is just playing something on the original hardware. Like, we don't need to play Melee on a CRT. You can play it on a monitor, and some tournaments do. In fact, most people play Melee on a monitor way more than they play on a CRT, right? Because they play Slippy. And I know Slippy has lag reduction codes, but like, it all evens out because of, you know, Wi-Fi and stuff. People play Melee on monitors, and it's a good experience. It looks good. Like, okay, it might not look as good using like a Wii to HDMI converter, and there are ways in which CRT Melee looks better. I agree with that. But isn't that part of the feeling I'm talking about? Part of the reason that it looks better on an old screen is because of that thing that can't quite be, or maybe it can be described by words, but that thing that I'm not very good at describing, that feeling that you know, playing something the retro way, that is part of the reason that the game looks better on a CRT. I know a lot of people will haver on about how pixelated games that were intended to be played on CRTs were designed, the pixel art was designed to be looked at on a CRT display. And that is true. That is true. But it doesn't apply to GameCube games, because all of those games, although they were meant to be played on, or like not even necessarily meant to be played on CRT, but like, you know, although they were intended to be played on CRT, like that's what most TVs were. They are just 3D models. Like, I don't think they took into consideration when they were texturing or modeling these models the fact that they would be played on a CRT versus anything else. Like, the CRT helps to mask some of the more polygonal bits of the game, but I do think that it looks great on a monitor. But there's just that feeling, and playing Melee on a CRT feels good, and it's not because of lag, and it's not because of input latency like people say it is. Like, Melee with a bit more input latency still feels like Melee. It's just the CRT, you know, and CRTs are not all the same speed. That's the thing. The input latency on some CRTs is worse than others. It's not some special quality that CRTs have that makes them feel better. It's just the fact that they're retro, or at least a big part of it is just the fact that they're retro, and it feels better to play on that original hardware. And that's why I'm sitting here with my phone on a glass table playing Super Mario Brothers, New Super Mario Brothers for the DS, right? Anyway, we're gonna kill this guy. Bye-bye. I think that's gonna be the video. I think I made my point. See you guys. What was that a reference to? I think I made my point. SpongeBob! In the SpongeBob movie, when he drinks the ice cream and then he makes fun of Mr. Krabs, he says, "I think I made my point." Anyone else seen that movie? Probably. All right, now actually see it.